At this time, we'll welcome head coach Steve Sarkisian of the Texas Longhorns, head coach Kenny Dillingham of the Arizona State Sun Devils, and Gary Stoken from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Gary, let's start with you for some opening remarks and welcome on behalf of the bowl.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Merry Christmas to everybody, and thanks for joining us today. The 57th annual Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl will ring in the new year from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta as the first college football game played in 2025. Our kickoff game is set for 1:10 Eastern on New Year's Day, and the game will be nationally televised by ESPN. As part of the newly expanded CFP playoff, the winner of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl quarterfinal matchup will then advance to play the Rose Bowl game winner in the Cotton Bowl Classic on January 10th. This is our first ever CFP quarterfinal as part of the inaugural 12-team college football playoff. We've previously hosted CFP semifinal games in 2016, 2019, and 2022. The winners of our last two CFP semifinal games went on to win the national championship game with LSU in 2019 and Georgia in 2022. Arizona State and Texas have only matched up once in the Holiday Bowl, and the Longhorns defeated the Sun Devils in 2007, 52-34. Both teams are vying to come back to Atlanta January 20th to play in the national championship game of the college football playoff. And next year, Atlanta and the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl will host the semifinal game of the CFP playoff. So basically, in one calendar year, Atlanta will have hosted the CFP quarterfinal, the CFP national championship game, and the CFP semifinal. A little bit about the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, since we have two teams that haven't been here in the case of Texas, and since 1970, Arizona State hadn't been here. We are the most charitable bowl organization in the country, having given $64 million back to charity and scholarship since 2002. We were the organization behind moving the College Football Hall of Fame to Atlanta and invested $13 million in the move, building, and sustaining the College Football Hall of Fame, which we're glad that both teams and the media will be able to enjoy the College Football Hall of Fame in Media Day here in Atlanta. We've also given $22 million to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta to find cures to eradicate childhood cancer. We now have 14 trials in 4 different hospitals in 4 different states in 5 different hospitals. And some of those trials are moving to a second phase. Our goal is to get in the end zone with something that's FDA approved to find a cure to eradicate childhood cancer and give a kid another month, another year, or maybe his life. So it's very important to us, as we were founded in 1968 as the first bowl game for charity. We've kept that our mission, and we'll do so with this game as well, endowing $100,000 scholarships to both Arizona State and Texas, $50,000 each from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and $50,000 from Chick-fil-A to endow scholarships at each university. That'll make it $9.5 million that we have endowed in 35 universities throughout the country who have played in our bowl and kickoff games. And that's earmarked for Title I students in Atlanta and Georgia, underprivileged kids who, in many cases, have never had anybody in their family ever attend college, let alone get a degree. So we are basically in the business to use football for the greater good. Give you a little example of this game and the way we see it. Styles make great fights. And with Arizona and Texas, they average 33 and 34 points pretty evenly. Both teams like to rush the ball. Arizona State's 199 yards per game, Texas at 174 yards. Rushing touchdowns, Arizona State's had 28. Texas only gives up 20 rushing yards all season. Rushing yards on average, 4.8 for Arizona State, 4.6 for Texas. So both teams like to run the ball. Here's the most interesting fact, I think, in researching this game. Arizona State's only given up the ball 8 times in turnovers. That's second in the country. Texas is first in the country in forcing turnovers with 29. Both have All-Americans, Scadaboo running back, Barron defensive back, and Thorpe Winter. One on offense, Scadaboo, one on defense, Barron. So you can see the offense versus defense matchup. So we're in for a great game. We're in for an exciting game. We think we're going to be sold out. There are very few tickets left, and we think by the end of the week we'll be sold out. Last couple things. One is Texas with a win in this game would be the first team to win all 6 New Year's Six bowl games. And I have to tell you the Arizona State story. In 1968, we were founded. And in 1970, number 8, Frank Kush led Arizona State. Couldn't get into the big bowls at the time. And the Peach Bowl reached out and brought them east. They played North Carolina, won 48-26, rained in the first quarter at Bobby Dodd Stadium at Georgia Tech, sleeted in the second, snowed in the third, and iced in the fourth. Vince Dooley, who was the head coach at Georgia, his brother was Bill Dooley, who was the head coach at North Carolina. Vince told me he was so cold, never so cold in his life, that he had to leave his brother at halftime and go home. And Arizona State won 48-26. And the Arizona State people from the Valley said, you know, it's so warm in Arizona. In Phoenix, it's 80 degrees today. Why don't we start one of these games? And so the Arizona State people started to meet with the Peach Bowl people. And out of that, in 1971, the Fiesta Bowl was created. Our partners at the Fiesta Bowl and us will host the CFP semifinal next year. So we've been inextricably involved in the growth of football, whether it's changing the front side of the season with the start of our kickoff games to now at the end of the season hosting both the CFP quarterfinal and the national championship game in Atlanta. Lastly, I just want to congratulate Coach Dillingham and Coach Sarkisian. To move from a conference like the Big 12 to the SEC and the Pac-12 to the Big 12. And in their first year, both wind up in the quarterfinal of the CFP playoff. It's been an amazing scouting and preparation job by both head coaches and their staffs and their players in executing. So I want to congratulate both coaches. And both coaches, we look forward to welcoming you, your families, your administration, your players, your media into Atlanta, the capital of college football, for the 57th annual Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Thanks, Matt.
All right, thanks very much, Gary. Appreciate that. All right, we'll go ahead and move into the Q&A portion, but before we do that, we'll take opening comments from both head coaches. We'll start first with Texas coach Steve Sarkisian. Coach, go ahead with your opening comment.
All righty, thank you. First of all, this is a heck of an honor to be participating in the Peach Bowl against Arizona State. Obviously, it being the quarterfinals of the college football playoff, but to be part of this game is a fantastic honor and one that we're really proud of that we've gotten to this point. We obviously have a ton of respect for Arizona State and the job Coach Dillingham has done. They're a very good football team. You don't win the Big 12 as we know how hard that is around here to win a Big 12 championship, and doing it in their first year in the conference. His second year at Arizona State is a heck of an accomplishment. I touched on earlier, they're plus 14 in the turnover margin, with only 8 turnovers, and they've created, I believe, like 22 turnovers defensively. They pride themselves on running the ball. Scadaboo is a heck of a player. He's got a ton of fans in our building, I can tell you that. We didn't know we were getting ready to play Arizona State, and we've been watching them here for about the last year and a half, and like, this guy's a monster. Now we got to try to figure out a way to stop him. Like I said, I think Coach Dillingham, I've followed his career for some time now, and I was kind of in his shoes a while back, where I was kind of the hot guy, and you're winning, and you keep finding your way up the ladder. And the job that he's done at Arizona State from year 1 to year 2, in this day and age of college football is extremely impressive. And so we're looking forward to the opportunity. It's a heck of a challenge. Appreciate the invitation, and looking forward to seeing everybody in Atlanta.
All right. Thanks for that, Coach. All right, Coach Dillingham, you're up. Take your opening comment, please.
Well, first things first, we're excited as a football program to be going back to Peach Bowl. Obviously, one of 8 teams left in college football. That speaks for itself for everybody who's left playing games when it comes around New Year's time. In terms of Coach Sarkisian and his program, it's remarkable where he's taken that program. I mean, from preseason being picked to win the national title to following up with playing national championship level football throughout their transition to the SEC. They've just had an incredible season. He's a guy that I think everybody's on offense has studied, has watched, has learned from, either having the ability to go meet with him personally or from afar, like myself. I don't know many people, so I just kind of have to Google things and find things out different ways. But no, I know our staff, our offense coordinator and Coach Sarkisian have a great relationship, and there's a lot of similarities that they do offensively that they do. And I just have a lot of respect for their football program. When you watch football teams and you see teams that are very creative but also simple, you have a lot of respect for that. And their guys play extremely hard. They have extremely good players that play extremely hard, which is not fun to play. You would like extremely good players to not play hard, but they have the combination of their players are very good and they play hard. And they're very fundamentally sound across the board. And this is going to be, like I told our guys this morning, this is going to be a great challenge for us to compete versus a team that has spent 4 years preparing to compete for a national championship. And we're in year 2, and we're excited for the opportunity to do it at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta with 8 teams left. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that. All right. We'll go right into questions. Again, please make sure your name and outlet are listed on your screen. Get your hand raised to get into the queue, and we will lead off with Terry Middleton. Go ahead, Terry.
Coach Sarkisian, during the last game against Clemson, Texas only had 2 penalties. This suggests that you guys are preparing in a mental way that you never had such low penalties. And I'm just curious if you would take us in to how you guys are preparing. I know you're going to probably say it's just like we always do, but it seems like the bar has been raised. Can you just walk us through what's going on inside the locker room?
Yeah, Terry, we had a real come to Jesus meeting after the SEC championship game when we essentially lost that game because of penalties. And we just said, we're not going to do that anymore. And we're going to play as clean football as we can play, as fundamentally sound football as we can play, still be aggressive. We never want to lose our stinger, and we never want to lose our aggressiveness, but we can play smarter. And, honestly, I critiqued one of the penalties that we got today. You can't hit the quarterback late, and that was one of our 2 penalties Saturday. So we're continually trying to preach playing smarter football, as well as playing hard and playing tough and playing physical. But quite frankly, that just came out of a come to Jesus meeting coming out of the SEC championship game.
Coach, thank you.
All right. We'll take our next question from Bob McManaman. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, this is for Kenny. Coach, you mentioned Google. I don't think you needed to use it to remember Frank Kush, but I'm curious if there's things from the Kush era when he started was at that Peach Bowl in 1970, and if the influences from him at all and the legacy he left, is that something you've kind of embraced a little bit into your own formula of success here as you get started?
Yeah, obviously Frank Kush, I mean, he's all over our walls. He is the history of this program. He's a big piece of the history of this program, and he's a big piece of the president of the program. And his toughness that he instilled in football team, and the football teams that he coached here are something that those guys still live with. Those guys are better people because how Frank Kush coached and how challenging it was to play for him and how much his guys loved him. And I would hope in 10, 15, 20 years from now, our guys have a very similar feeling about myself and our staff, that we impacted their lives far beyond the game of football.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take our next question from Josh Newman from Lone Star Live. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, hey Steve, you said Saturday night that Cam Williams was on his way to have an MRI. How did that go? And then behind that, just now that you've seen some film, what did you think of the way that Trevor Goosby played in place of Cam Saturday night?
I'm going to make a joke here and it has nothing to do with you, Josh. I'm watching Judge Judy at the bottom of this Zoom right here. I'm not sure who's got that cooking, but it's kind
Wasn't
of
me, I
classic.
swear.
Anyway, sorry, Kenny, I apologize, but um, so Cam, again, not as serious as we thought. Again, that was more of a precautionary MRI, so we feel comfortable about that. I thought Trevor did a really nice job. I highlighted him this morning with the team. You know, they had an elite defensive end, first round draft pick defensive end. I thought he held his own, more than held his own. And for a guy to think, you know, he's been a backup all year, and against A&M, you know, 7 plays in, he goes and plays left tackle in that game, plays left tackle against Georgia. And then he thinks, okay, I'm back as a backup. And then, you know, in this ball game, in the second quarter, he gets thrown in at right tackle against a pretty good pass rusher, a couple pretty good defensive ends from Clemson. So he's been kind of thrown to the fire here pretty good. And I got to give him a lot of credit. He's held his own. He's shown not only the physical fortitude, but I think the mental fortitude, the mental toughness when he's been going against some pretty elite players. So I've been proud of him.
All right, we'll take our next question from Jordan Spurgeon from Sports 360 AZ. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, hey, this one's for Kenny. As you've kind of settled in and navigated, for the first time as the head coach an extended season, how has it just gone for you with balancing portal, prepping for this game specifically? I mean, where are you at mentally? Obviously, you're dialed in and fired up, but mentally, how has that been on you?
Yeah, well, Coach Sark, I too am watching Judge Judy, just so you know. I see it as well. So no harm taken, but yeah, it's absolute chaos. Anybody who says it's not chaos is lying to you. The world we live in right now is chaos, but you're either going to embrace it and respond to what's pitched to you, or you're not. And nobody's going to care. Nobody cares what happens to you. They care your response to what happens. And I think, we're over here. I mean, I couldn't imagine playing in a game last week with what we were doing. We had it easy. I really couldn't imagine what Coach Sarkisian had to go through last week with the portal and opening while also preparing for a gigantic football game. And but for us, it's been a great challenge balancing it all. And I have no clue if we're doing it right. We'll find out here in about 6 months and a year. If we did it right. We'll find out in 10 days if we manage this 3.5 week break right. And regardless if it's good or bad, we'll learn from it. We'll grow. We'll get better, and we'll respond.
All right, next question will go to Danny Davis from the Austin American Statesman. Go ahead, Danny.
First off, I'm kind of entertained by this Judge Judy going on here, but it's for both Steve and Kenny. I guess you guys would have ran into each other at an Iron Bowl, but what is something you kind of observed about each other's careers? I know you touched a little bit on it in your opening statements.
Yeah, no, I think from Kenny's perspective, he's obviously a very bright football coach, and he's been around other really good football coaches. And I've been fortunate that same way as well in my career. As I grew up, playing for Norm Chow, and then, starting my career at SC with him being the coordinator, and then going to work for a Norv Turner, and still all the while being around a Pete Carroll. And then later in my career, getting around Coach Saban. I think Coach Dillingham, same thing. He's been around some really good coaches, but you can see how innovative he's been. I've whether he doesn't know it or not, I've watched his stuff a lot too. And not only when he was been a coordinator from an offensive perspective, but really as a head coach. And people don't know this, that Washington probably should have lost to Arizona State a year ago. And we watched that game very closely because of playing Washington in the playoff. And the way he attacked them, not only on offense, but on defense, on special teams, that was a head coach that was trying to win the game. And so I have a lot of respect for him in that approach. This isn't, a lot of guys put on a head coaching hat and then they go find that head coaching manual and they just kind of cookie cutter it because that's how we're supposed to do it. And I give him a lot of credit. And I have a lot of respect for him because he does what he thinks is the best thing to do. And sometimes that's not always what the manual says to do. And in this day and age of college football, we all have to continually evolve. And I think he's blazing a trail for some older coaches to look at to say, hey, maybe there's a better way. We don't have to always do it the way we've always done it before. And I think we've all got to think that way. This is a new era. There's a lot of change going on. And so we've all got to think outside the box a little bit. And I credit him for doing that. They've done a nice job.
Yeah, in regards to Coach Sark, I mean, I was a high school coach when he started his career as a head coach, and the way he's evolved offensively, there's a lot of good offensive schemes out there, and then there's offensive coaches who change their scheme and are constantly getting better. And I think that's something that he's done as good, if not better, than anybody in the country. Is if you turned on his tape from 10 years ago, it's going to be unrecognizable to his tape right now. And that is very challenging to do when you're successful. When you're successful, you want to keep doing what got you successful. And it's very challenging, in my opinion, to be humble enough to constantly, continually adapt to the current landscape of the rules. You can't cut block on the perimeter, right? To RPOs and how they change the game in terms of substitution patterns. And now you can slow teams down that sub late. You couldn't do that 15 years ago. Like, he has always adapted with the game and almost been ahead of the curve a little bit. And that's really challenging to do. And it's a testament to, one, how hard he works, because you can't adapt unless you study. So he's always studied, and I've always been able to kind of steal a few things from him. I mean, I really remember when he was at Washington and way back when, he was a big FIB guy. And he was one of the first people to really dive into FIB and challenge people with how they play the big nickel and what to do. And I was like, well, what is he doing? This makes no sense. I couldn't process it. I was trying to learn it. And but all of that stuff that he's done, he's just constantly evolved and evolved and evolved to get to why he's where he's at right now, which is one of the best offenses in college football. And I think that same philosophy he carries over as a head coach in terms of, there's no stagnant. People aren't stagnant in that program. And I think you can see that his offensive philosophy is becoming the program philosophy, it's pretty impressive when you are young, innovative, and you continue to evolve throughout your entire career. And just got a lot of respect for him.
All right, we'll go next to Joe Cook from Inside Texas. Go ahead, Joe.
Steve, you're going to look across and see a lot of guys who are in your building. How does that change, and what's that like, especially in a game like this? And then for Kenny, similar thing. A lot of guys in Burnt Orange are now playing for your team in Tempe. What will that be like for those players?
I think this is college football in 2024, and moving forward. It's almost got a little bit of an NFL feel that way, and I'm happy for all those guys, especially the guys that are having some success in Coach Dillingham's program. In this day and age of college football, it's about creating opportunities for our young people, and the way the transfer portal works, and when new coaches get jobs and half their roster, I'm sure when Kenny took over at Arizona State, jumped ship, and now he's trying to fill his roster. And so that creates opportunities for other players and other programs to maybe go there and contribute and find a role that's different than maybe their role was here, and vice versa for that matter. And so I'm happy for all those guys that they had this opportunity. You transfer schools and you never know. Wait, am I going to transfer? Do I have an opportunity to get in the college football playoff? Are those things a reality? And for them to be, in the quarterfinal of the CFP, I'm really happy for those guys. And so, I know our players are, they were kind of talking about today, so-and-so, yeah, so-and-so, the names started popping up again today. So, but I do think that's the era of college football where we're at now. It's 2024. The portal's alive and well. And 2025 is going to roll around. There'll be more faces moving around.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's the nature of the beast right now, is people will be moving around. You'll be playing your former teammates. And at the end of the day, we're playing in the Peach Bowl with 8 teams left. If that is more energy, then something's wrong with you. If you need external factors to get excited to play in this game, you're at the wrong program here. We want people who are competitive. Where's 8 teams left in college football? This is about competing versus one of the best teams in the country in the Peach Bowl. and all 120 of our guys get to go, all 120 of their guys get to go and experience what college football is about. And that's competing in one of the biggest bowl games.
All right, next question will go to Eric Henry from 247 Sports.
Steve, the other night, Gunnar Helm set the program record for receptions, or excuse me, season record for receptions by tight end. I wonder if you could just talk about Gunnar's role, his ability in your offense as a safety blanket for Quinn and for Coach Dillingham. Just general thoughts on Gunnar as a player.
Yeah, so Gunnar, again, I think we all know the path, his journey, the development that he's had in our program. I'm super proud of him. What I like about Gunnar is, he's a really versatile guy. We rely on him to block the Syria. He has some tough matchups against some of these six techniques that he's blocking. He had a couple tough matchups the other night when they moved the three technique out to defensive end. It was not a favorable matchup, but he fights for us in the C area and he does a great job. He's a really good play action pass tight end where we can find voids for him. But he also has evolved his game now into a down the field threat and a guy who can make plays with the ball in his hands with yards after the catch. And I do think his catch radius is a positive of his, and I think Quinn trusts that from him, that he's going to be where he's supposed to be, and that his catch radius is what he is, and so he can place balls in certain spots that he knows maybe if Gunnar doesn't catch it, it's probably incomplete. And they've just got good rapport. They've been together for 3 years now, and I think there's a lot of trust there.
Yeah, I think he just described his gameplay pretty good right there. Overall, really good player. They do a good job getting him open in the middle of the field with the play action game, the screen game, and then they use the width of the field so well that the middle of the field opens up for his game, and his length and size and the fact that he is a good C area blocker sets everything up in between the hashes for him, whether it's vertically down the field, whether it's over the ball spacing concepts, or whether it's screens at the line of scrimmage. The way they set up their offense really allows a tight end to dominate in between the hashes on early downs. And I think he does a phenomenal job of that with his catch radius and his physicality. And then he's dynamic. He catches the ball. He has great contact balance when he catches the ball. He's not a tight end that's clumsy and catches it and falls. He catches it and extends completions, which is something that you never like to see when you're going versus a tight end. You want those guys to catch it and fall. You don't want them to catch it and run. And that's something that he does really well.
All right, next we'll go to David Eckert from Austin American Statesman.
Yeah, appreciate it. Real quick for Steve. Do you guys expect to have Isaiah Bond available for this game? And then for Kenny, I'm just curious. Obviously, you've got an elite running back, going up against an elite defensive line. What's the key to setting him up for success in that matchup?
Yeah, I think, like I said, going into last week's game, I think Isaiah continues to make really good progress for us. Obviously we're quite a ways out. So my goal is coming out of Christmas here that progress continues in a positive direction. Then we can see where it goes from there.
Yeah. And obviously we got to get Cam going in some way, shape, or form. Everybody knows that. You got to get your best players the ball. They know that. It's not a secret. And they do such a good job being fundamentally sound and just defeating blocks. And that's going to be a great challenge for us and our offensive staff, is creating angles, creating leverage to give our guys an advantage to get Cam started and at least get him to second and third levels of players where he can win one-on-ones and not getting stopped at the line of scrimmage, obviously. But they do just such a good job fundamentally moving D linemen around. Not big tweaks, but minor tweaks throughout a game plan to take advantage of your running game. And like I said, I think that's why they do a good job defensively, is small changes are what good coordinators do, not big changes. And they're a team that's filled with small changes within a game plan. And we got to find ways to get into the second and third level. It'll be a great challenge.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, we'll go next to Blake Neiman from Sun Devil Source. Go ahead, Blake.
Hey, thanks so much, guys, for taking some time. This is for both Steve and Kenny. Steve, you kind of started off giving some praise for Cam Scadaboo. If you could just further expand on what he does well and how that's going to challenge your defense. And then for Kenny, you've coached some elite quarterbacks in the past. What are your general thoughts on Quinn Ewers and the challenge he poses as a quarterback?
Well, I think this, he's a really versatile player. I think when you first turn on Cam's tape, you're thinking you're just going to see Mike Allstat. You're just going to see this bruiser that's just running into the line of scrimmage and bouncing off of people. And then the more you watch him, you're like, man, this guy's got really good feet. This guy's got great contact balance. This guy, right when you think he's getting ready to run somebody over, he makes a miss. He uses a stiff arm. He's really good in the open field. He can run away from you. And then all of a sudden you're like, but wait a minute, this guy catches the ball really well out of the backfield. He's got, really good initial quickness after the catch to get vertical. And so he's a really versatile player. I was hoping he was going to be kind of a one-dimensional guy. When you just kind of watch Sports Center and different things, but all of a sudden you start looking at the cut up of them and the explosive plays and how they're happening. His versatility is probably the thing that stands out to me the most.
Yeah, and Quinn, obviously I recruited Quinn a little bit out of high school, so I got to watch him. He doesn't even know I recruited him because I had no chance to sign him, so I never really talked to him, but I watched him. And he's a phenomenal player. He's accurate, can extend plays, super intelligent. You can tell when he gets to the line of scrimmage. One of the things I don't think gets praised enough is smart quarterbacks that get you into good plays. And when you watch him play, you see him getting them into good plays consistently. And those are the dangerous guys. The guys that when there's 9 seconds left on the clock, checks you into a touchdown. And he does that consistently. I know Coach Sark even alluded to it after their game, checked him into 2 runs. You can see that. And you can see that the power and confidence that creates for a quarterback is huge. He throws the ball downfield very accurately. And like I said, he makes people miss. I mean, in the pocket, he's hard to bring down. His pocket awareness is really high. And then when you can throw versus one-eye teams outside the field numbers as a quarterback, that's a complete eraser. When you can throw the ball and you have confidence throwing the ball outside the numbers of the field in single-eye defense, that erases single-eye defense for the most part. And he has a lot of confidence in that. And they do a lot of things to get the ball out there, which puts stress on the defense. So kudos to him.
All right, we're going to try to get to as many questions as we can. Time for a few more. Let's go next to Chip Brown from Horns 247. Go ahead, Chip.
Hey, Steve. As well as y'all ran it against Clemson, you did have some runs stuffed in short yardage situations. I just wondered after looking at the film if there was any trend there.
Some bad planning, some bad execution, without getting into the particulars on which plays were which. It was probably could have planned it a little better, and we definitely could have, in a couple instances, executed better. So, I hated that because I think a couple of those could have really changed the momentum in the game. The one was after a turnover, and we had an opportunity to go up 28-7. We didn't capitalize on that. And then the other one there, we had I think it was 3rd and goal from the 2. And we lose a couple yards and we settle for the field goal, which we got 3 points. But those two incidents stand out to me the most. But I think it was a combination of things.
All right, let's go next to Roger Wallace from KXAN TV. Go ahead, Roger.
Hey, Sark, this next couple of days, you turn the guys loose, how important it is for them to be with family this time of year, but also as a coaching staff, how tough is it to kind of see them scatter for a couple of days at such an important time?
I do think it's important. It's been a long grind for us. We started August 31st. Went all the way through the SEC championship there and had a couple weeks, and we took a few days before the Clemson game, that first week, to get ready for Clemson. We felt like the formula worked pretty good. We felt fresh. We felt fast. We felt physical. I thought the guys had a good grasp of the game plan. And so coming out of this week's game, coming back to work Sunday, Monday, and then giving everybody a couple days for Christmas felt like the right thing to do. We'll get everybody back to 26th, and we'll go to work. That part of that is, we're in year 4, and this is, year 2, back-to-back years of being in the college football playoff. I think we've got people in our organization and players on our team who came here for reasons that this is part of the reason why they came, was to be in these moments. And so if I can't trust them now, then when can I trust them? There's 8 teams left, right? And we're one of the 8. And if I can't trust our guys for a couple days to go home and drink eggnog with their mom, then when am I going to trust them? So they'll be ready to go on the 26th.
All right, we'll go next to Kobe Bronstein from House of Sparky. Go ahead, Kobe.
Question for both coaches. It's been mentioned a couple times that the Sun Devil offense has the second fewest turnovers in the country with 8, and the Longhorn defense has forced the most turnovers with 29. So for Kenny, when turning on the tape, what has made the Longhorn defense so effective at creating havoc for opposing offenses? And then for Steve, what has made it so difficult for opposing defenses to turn the Sun Devils over on offense?
Yeah, well, it all starts with pass rush. They get pass rush, they get tip balls. Their defensive line gets in throwing windows. And then their back end, obviously the versatility, they'll drop 8, they'll rush 4, they'll rush 5, they'll mix it up a little bit. And then the corners are sticky. I mean, they're sticky players. There's not much space. It sounds like a boring answer, but they're good. They're coached well. And when the ball hits their hands, they catch it. And then the pass rush, like I said, everything starts with impacting the quarterback. When you talk about turnovers, and they impact the quarterback enough, and they get enough tip balls to create some like bonus turnovers, I would call them, which are the tip ball turnovers. Those are like additionals. So they're just well coached. They're where they're supposed to be. They're talented. And then those guys play hard, so they're around the football. And that's a good combination to create takeaways.
I think on the flip side, when you look at it, I think when you have a runner carry it as much as Cam carries it, and to think as a team, they only have 3 fumbles on the year. And so to me, that tells me they practice, ball security, that you just don't not fumble the ball. You work at not fumbling the ball. You work on stumble bum. You work on, 2 hands on the ball in contact, not switching the ball. The ball's in their outside arm. That fundamentally right when they carry the ball. And the second thing, I think the quarterback makes good decisions. I think he has only had 5 interceptions on the year, so he's making good decisions. They've got a great plan. I know, obviously, with Kenny's background and Marcus Arroyo, the OC, those guys are really good football coaches. And so they put together good schemes, and you can tell the quarterback's really well coached up. He makes good decisions. There's not forcing throws. He trusts his guys to go make their plays. But at the end of the day, if you're holding on to the ball and then your quarterback makes good decisions, that's about all you can ask for. And they're getting that, so it's a credit to them. On the flip side, we know the issues it's caused us. We've had a strange year when it comes to the turnover bug that we've had, and it's come at odd times, and it can change the impact in games. And they've done a great job of controlling football games by not turning it over.
All right, time for a couple more. Let's go to John. I'm not going to try the last name. John from Fox 7 in Austin. Is it High?
Hi. It's High. It's
okay.
High.
All right, I got you.
All righty. This is for both coaches as well. Coach Sark, you talked about being proud to get to this moment. You've always talked about how much you love this team. How much confidence do you have going into this game? And for Coach Dillingham, you say you're going against one of the best teams. Do you like your chances going into this one?
Well, I'm definitely proud of our guys. Like I said, it's been a long season, and having gone to the college football playoff a year ago and literally being inches away from playing from a national championship, and knowing what the goals were coming into this season, and to be back in the college football playoff when 4 of us were in the CFP a year ago, but we were the only team that made it back into the college football playoff in an expanded version of 12 teams. There's a lot to be proud of, but mostly I'm proud of our veterans, our leaders, our seniors, because those guys went through 5 and 7 in year 1. They went through 8 and 5 in year 2. And they didn't jump ship. They hung in there with us. They believed in what we were doing. Going into last year and not finishing it the way we would have liked. And then to get back again this year, I just think, like I said, it's a credit to the leadership on our team. This is a heck of a challenge. Like you're not a conference championship team, especially in the Big 12. I want to remind everybody, Like we were in that Big 12, what, 27 years? We won 4. Okay. This is their first year in and they won a Big 12 championship. Like it's a really hard thing to do. They're playing with a ton of confidence right now. The last 2 months, I think they're playing as good as football as anybody in the country. And that's a credit to Coach Dillingham and their staff and in building their team as they've gotten better and better as the years gone on. And it's clear as day to see when you watch the tape. So it's a heck of a challenge for us.
Yeah, obviously, our guys are excited to go be able to compete versus one of the Blue Bloods and compete versus one of the best teams in the country. And like I said at the start, you turn on the tape and the way they've recruited, the way they've coached this football team, this is a team that, preseason could win a national championship. Last year could have won a national championship. This year can win a national championship. And all you want to do is the opportunity to compete versus the best. And I think any competitor, and regardless of what you do, you want a chance to compete versus the very best. And if you don't want to do that, then you're not a competitor. And I think that's what our guys are excited for, is that opportunity. And, I'm excited to see our guys get out there and be able to do just that. We're 14-point underdogs, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. We're playing a really, really good football team. But at the same token, I'm excited to see our guys go compete as hard as they can compete for as long as they can compete, play smart and tough football, take care of the ball and be about the team for 60 minutes and see what happens.
All right, we'll go next to Kirk Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. Go ahead, Kirk.
Yeah, Kenny, on the transfer portal, you have so many ex-Longhorns. Is your philosophy just to call Steve and say, hey, I need a D lineman or a safety or a wide receiver, or is it just happenstance you target so many Texas players? And Steve, do you think Kenny owes you a player like Cam Scatabo for all these loaners?
Yeah, that is 100% our philosophy. He's actually going to give us Quinn and a few other guys this week, so I'm fired up about that. He said he was going to give us about 6 or 7 dudes for this game. He's just going to let me know on game day, so I'm excited for that. But in all seriousness, we knew we were joining the Big 12, and I had a strategy, and we had a strategy as a staff when we were joining the Big 12 that we were going to play games in Texas. So we wanted to recruit Texas at a higher rate, and we felt like where we were as a program, being kind of in between Hawaii, Utah, Southern California, and then Texas, that within 2 hours, a kid from Dallas or Houston can fly to us. And that would kind of be our niche, is be a school that recruits both California, Utah, Hawaii, and also have a big state in Texas. So that was kind of our plan all along. And I will say this, the guys we've gotten from Texas and Coach Sark's program have been unbelievable. And that may be why we're going back. We've gone back to the well when some of their guys have hit the portal, is, we know what we're getting when we're getting a guy from that program. And that's a guy who's worked really hard, competed, and been pushed. And those are the things that we like to bring in.
Steve?
Kirk, were you serious? No, I'm just kidding. No, in all reality, I wish I would have discovered Cam when he was transferring the first time around. I was unaware. So kudos to them. They found him, and he's a heck of a player.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take our last question from Thomas Jones from Austin American-Statesman. Go ahead, Thomas.
Good afternoon, guys. Hey, for both of y'all, you can look back on the regular season now a bit, and what were some of the biggest challenges competing in a new conference? But also, what were some of the benefits of kind of being the new kid on the block?
Coach Dillingham, start with you.
I think one of the challenges were the environments. You were not used to getting tortillas thrown at us at Texas Tech. You're not used to some of these environments. When you're in the Pac-12, you're playing in Seattle, you're playing in LA, you're playing in Salt Lake City, you're playing in different environments. We got to face a lot more, small college town football with really, really great environments. Some of the advantages were, people didn't know much about us. People hadn't played us in the past. So we were a little bit different. And obviously, I think that's part of, we have 60 new guys on our team from last year. So even if we would have been in the league, would have been a different team. But it was definitely fun to join a new league, a league as passionate as the Big 12 is for football, a league whose roots are in the state of Texas, which everybody knows Texas high school football is some of the best high school football in the country. and to be able to create a footprint in the state, or try to create a footprint as much as we can in the state, is something that I truly believe in.
Yeah, I think the challenges for us were probably very similar to Coach Dillingham's in that, we went into some tough environments. We renewed, 2 rivalries with Arkansas and A&M, and going on the road to both of those were obviously very challenging. But again, on the flip side, I do think being the new kid on the block, there were, maybe we weren't exposed to them as much. And so they had to do a little bit more research on us. When I really felt like in the Big 12, we really had to recreate ourselves every week, because we so many common opponents, so many similarities from a defensive perspective, especially where you almost had to recreate stuff week in and week out. Where this year around in the SEC, little different style of play that I think was challenging, but probably the most challenging thing for us more than anything was just dealing with some of the unfortunate injuries that we had and managing those things and what that looked like. And I don't think that was a direct correlation with being in the SEC. It just happened to be our first year in the SEC in managing some of the injury bug that we had, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. Thanks for that, Coach. Again, thanks to both coaches for the time